Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the Culinary Institute of America's online session. Today we're going to be talking about the career services and academic advising offered at the Culinary Institute of America. My name is Michelle Malooly. I'm the Director of Admissions and I'll be the host for today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our very special guest, Maura O'Mara. She is the manager of the Center for Academic Advising and Career Services.
It is an honor and privilege to be invited to speak with everyone today about career and academic advising as a department and how the folks that work with me support the career development for the students at the CIA. And we're so thrilled to be joined today by students that are currently at the culinary, as well as prospective students, maybe accepted students. So it's a really broad audience and it's a really broad topic. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today, and it's just wonderful to connect to our community in this way, especially during this time. So thank you for joining me. I want to start by introducing the Career and Academic Advising Department, and just address the fact that we do career and academic advising together at CIA, and that was a really big decision and conversation we had a few years ago to be very strategic in how we offer our services to our students, and really to always keep in mind the end goal, which is so important to all of you. So, you start to make a dish or you start to make a dessert with this idea of what it's going to be like at the end. Starting with the end in mind is a really good idea with so many projects that are long-term in our lives. And so at CIA, we really start with, from the very beginning, what do you want to do with this degree at the end? And a wonderful answer is, I'm not sure yet. And so my team is here to say to you, let's really stretch the horizon for you, and let's give you a chance to explore career opportunities that are going to be wonderful options for you with your degree during your time at one of our campuses, during the time that you have with us before you complete your degree, so that you have a really full idea of what you want to do. Some students come in day one and they absolutely know already what we can do, and we can make a timeline and really path it out. But I think what I most often see during my 16 years at CIA is that phenomenal first year where all of a sudden the world expands right in front of you. And I've been just blessed and honored to work with so many students and then graduates that go into fields that they really were just dreams for them in the beginning, or they weren't even aware of. And we see more students going into media, more students going into agriculture, more students going into public policy. That maybe they came in thinking, I'm going to open a restaurant, and things shifted to them as they were able to identify other opportunities. So what you'll find in the team for career and academic advising is, when we talk to students about choosing your major, perhaps looking at some of the concentrations and deciding if that would work with you for your degree or your major, what that concentration will offer you later on in terms of career development. When we start working with upper level students and choosing elective courses, how is that elective choice informed by what you want to do with the degree? So it's also a conversation we have with students' families. Of course, what are you going to do after, and what is commonly referred to as the return on the investment, right? So what is going to be this career that you are setting yourself up for at CIA, and how that will absolutely have a role in your academic decisions that you make throughout your time at CIA. So a little bit about our team and who we are to you and your support family and friends. We have two really big shared goals with you. What I used to say when I would give this in a live presentation is, these two goals are the things that get me out of my car and across a parking lot and into Roth Hall every day. What I can tell you is, it turns out these are the two goals that get me up and out of my bed every morning, because no matter where I am, these are the things I start my day with in mind, and I'm sure you do as well. The first goal is successfully completing your degree. So the very first thing we talk about is persistence towards your degree, meaning semester to semester that you are successful, that your GPA is healthy, that you can continue on to future semesters, and that we're going to build that plan for you from here to graduation. And for some students, what I call it is getting all the chess pieces on the board, like having the plan for how your course sequencing is going to lay out for you. And the board of chess pieces can move and change with time depending on your decisions, but it's always a really great thing for you to understand that completion toward your degree, especially in terms of how many semesters, especially for people with transfer credit and that sort of thing. We have a marvelous program that's called Student Planning, which is really a way for us to communicate and work with students in choosing courses, understanding their degree audit, meaning what you need to take in order to earn your degree, and how to plan that out for yourself. So that's the first thing, is getting you from here to graduation day successfully. And of course, so that the day after graduation day, you have a really strong start to a wonderful career. And, you know, as I mentioned before, those two things are not separate. Those two things are absolutely in tandem. What we typically see is many of our students on graduation day are still deciding between offers. Not unusual. When students go out on externship, which we're going to talk about a little, very often they're choosing between offers. So when we talk about starting an amazing career, what would be amazing for you might be amazing for someone else in a different way. What are the things that you're looking for out of life? For some people, it's a really purpose-driven organization and they really want to be part of something that's going to change the world. For someone else, they want, financial return is going to be their #1 driver. For someone else, it may be an opportunity to step into something where they're getting to be creative and entrepreneurial. So what does that amazing career look like for you, and how can we help open up opportunities for you to do that? Your advisor is going to help you navigate the success of that. That sounds like a lot. And it is a lot. And so your career and academic advisor is going to be very, very central to your experience at CIA, very central to you identifying resources that will be available to you both on and off our campuses. So I want to tell you a little bit more about who that person is and how they're going to be especially important to you, and sort of when you meet them and all of those kinds of things. These are the faces of our career and academic advising team, as a matter of fact. And so I just, since we can't be with you today, wanted you to see the smiling faces and understand the energy and enthusiasm we come to work with every day. You are typically assigned your career and academic advisor after you have made your enrollment decision. So if you are someone who has just recently made the enrollment decision, or a student who's about to make a deposit for that decision to be set in stone with our admissions team, it's usually a little bit after that. So we try to be like 90 days out from your start date that you have that career and academic advisor assigned to you. We make it very easy just through that student portal, that accepted student portal, for you to, like, in one click, email my advisor, and you can send that advisor a question you may have about textbook ordering or uniforms or transfer credit, or just a decision about even making a major and what the options are for you. So I'm just going to quickly pan through this beautiful photograph of my team left to right, so you have an idea of who this is. Angie Budnick is on the left, and she is our transfer credit coordinator. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different things that you will be connecting to Angie about, but usually she is someone you might work with actually before your day one, before your orientation, because if you have a ServSafe certificate, she's the one that's going to receive that. If you have transfer credits that are pending right now from a class you're taking or an AP exam you have coming up, she will be on the receiving end of that. And she communicates to the advisor so that your schedule will reflect your specific needs. Next to Angie, we have Felice Solomon. Next to her is Chelsea Reed. Then we have Lucas Ellison. Next to Lucas, we have Elaine. She's the tallest one in the back. She works specifically with veteran students and is a veteran herself and is very well versed in that. I'm there on the right. It was our Christmas party day, so I have my red skirt on to be festive. And down in the center, looking like the king of the world, that's RJ Panesi. RJ is, I think, 6'9", so he's always the tallest one in a photograph. And we decided for today, for this picture, he was going to sit down and let somebody else be the tallest one in the photo. But this is our terrific team. I miss them tremendously, and so wanted you to see their face. And I also want you to know how you're going to be connecting with them. So my next slide is actually just sort of nuts and boltsy, but to give you an idea of how accessible we are to our advisees. This is something that we care a lot about. Mondays and Fridays, we have a very typical office hours scheduled from 8:30 to 5, but our students had communicated to us that they were also interested in having a little bit more time in the evening when our students are in PM classes. They have something that's called family meal. And so they're available between 5 and 6, and sometimes they would like to come and ask a question during that family meal time. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have extended hours till 6 o'clock. Every single day of the week, Monday through Friday, we make sure we have drop-in hours. And this is a very robust time of day for us. So 11 to 12 in the morning and 2 to 3 in the afternoon. We have what's called drop-in hours. You can come in without having made an appointment for a quick question, something that's urgent you may not be able to wait on, something usually kind of a very quick transactional thing. You come up to our second floor office, you swipe in with your student ID number, student ID card, and you take a seat, and we let your advisor know that you're there, and you get seen in that hour. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that last hour of the day is also a drop-in hour. So it's 13 hours a week. That's just come as you are, come on in and say hello and have your question answered. So that's wonderful. But I often say it's sort of like a restaurant. If you have a reservation, you have a better experience, right? So we do encourage students to have an appointment with us in advance if you're able to do that, and it will be easy. I'm going to tell you how you would do that. We have something called CIA Cares, which is a way for you to interface with your support team. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. But one of the #1 ways people engage with CIA Cares is that scheduling function, where maybe it's midnight and you're in your residence hall and you decide, oh, I'd like to see RJ Panesi tomorrow. You can go into his calendar right there and you can say, okay, RJ's available at 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'm available at 3 p.m. tomorrow, and make that appointment. That's a little bit preferred, especially if it's a longer conversation, like an open-ended exploration kind of conversation, because we like to have that 30 minutes of time just dedicated to you. There's not someone else waiting to be seen. We are expecting you, so we could have your transcript printed out waiting on our desk, or we could have some information that you've asked to be researched ready for you. So we do also have at least 6 appointment slots available each day for your career and academic advisor. So that's a lot of availability in our center. We also have a really big waiting room area that is lined with computers. I think we have about 12 or 13 computers in there that are touch screen. Why does that matter to me? Well, because during registration periods, I, as a career and academic advisor, can literally pull up the chair, sit right next to you. You have the mouse, I can touch your screen, and we can navigate some of those choices together. Here are the types of courses that you need. Here's how many credits we want you to sign up for in the coming semester. Let's walk through it together and go through it together. And that's really for the people who need that sort of connectivity. We are there to offer that level of connectivity. If you're someone who says, I really don't want to have to come in unless I absolutely have to, there's a lot of ways for us to communicate alternatively through text, through email, using the CIA Care system. And so if that's more comfortable for you in your approach, we have the chance to do that with you. So let's talk a little bit more about that. The CIA Care system, so you see the heart with the CIA, that is something that is front and center on your CIA student portal. When you're an active student, that CIA main menu becomes very, very enhanced with lots of different tools available to you and lots of different resource connection. And the CIA Cares with the heart in the center is really the heart of what we do. This is a chance to connect everybody who is like sort of in your world in that semester at CIA, so we're all communicating together for your success. That means every single faculty member that you have for that semester is on CIA Cares, and your career and academic advisor is, your financial planner is. If you work with a disability service specialist or a learning specialist, those people are on there. it runs the gamut of anyone who really has a connection to you and your success. We can work collaboratively, and that's really important. So a faculty member who says, oh, you know, that was a kind of a low test score last week, they can put in the CIA Cares notification, and that will ping to you, the student, immediately. It will ping to your advisor. The advisor can see that and recommend tutoring, and that can track them to the tutoring folks, and they can reach out and say, can you schedule an appointment tomorrow at 2 p.m. It looks like you're free and out of class at that time. And then when you respond to us, everyone gets notified that you've been responding to us. So a low quiz score, that's kind of an easy thing to understand how that's going to work, but this can be any number of things. It could be someone who's having a hard time waking up early in the morning, and we can build a plan for you about different resources available to you to time manage. That's actually a big thing, especially for college freshmen, getting used to the college management that goes into being a college student. If you have questions about roommate, if you have questions about career choice, if you have questions about a class that you're in right now, or even like a peer-to-peer discussion that you feel like you need some coaching on, we can all kind of do that together there. One of the big, most important parts of CI Cares for me as your advisor would be the little button that says raise my hand. So you can yourself say, I want to raise my hand and say, I have a question about something. I have a concern about something. I don't even know where to start on this. And so if you raise your hand, I want you to know that is our first priority in the morning. Come in the morning, we see if there's any flags on CIA Cares, and the student that has raised their hand is absolutely our #1 concern. So please know that you can do that for yourself. You can do that for a peer as well, but just to let you know. So families like to know, and students like to know, that if we have a student at school, at CIA, who is struggling, it will not go unnoticed. That's the most important thing to know. There's a student who's not okay, not feeling comfortable, not feeling confident, really struggling with the content, it will be noticed. It will be followed up on. And we are very, very quick and rather urgent about following up on CIA Cares notifications. Part of the reason for that is, you may already be aware, but many of our classes are 6 weeks long. They're very intensive classes, those lab classes that are in the kitchens or the bake shops. So we know if we only have 3 weeks in a class and you're struggling on day 3 or 4, we need to get you that intervention really quickly so that you can successfully complete that course. So that's why we really have a goal, believe it or not, of 48 hours after a flag comes in. We'd like to have you in the office or on the phone or somehow connecting with us. You have a lot of choices for you as a user of CI Cares of how you like to be connected with. So if you prefer text messaging, you can opt for that. If you prefer a phone call, if you prefer email, you can tell us those things about yourself, which is really, really helpful. Individual action plans are mentioned on this slide, and the individual action plan is typically for someone who is perhaps on academic probation or in a situation where something really needs to be addressed for you to maintain your satisfactory academic progress. Satisfactory academic progress is something important for CI standards, but it's also important to the federal government in its connection to financial aid eligibility. So we take those students sort of with a higher touch if you're in any time in jeopardy of having those things disrupted. So that's why we have that addressed individually. One of the things that your career and academic advisor may recommend to you if you have a flag in CI Cares is to connect closer with the Learning Commons. The Learning Commons is what we call our support services. In Hyde Park, it's a separate building that students call the library. In San Antonio and Greystone, it's different parts of our central campus building. But in all of our campuses, we have tutors available in every single subject. Okay, so if you are struggling in a class, we can connect you to someone who understands that content very, very well. Many of our tutors are peers, like in any college setting. So these numbers here are in Hyde Park, that we have 40 peer tutors, and we also have professional tutors. And a professional tutor is someone who typically has a master's degree in that subject area, and perhaps is even a teacher, perhaps an adjunct professor for us or at another college. So culinary math, a really commonly tutored first year course. If math is something that you're concerned about, please know that we have many professional tutors, especially in culinary math. We think about something like wines. That's a really commonly tutored course as well. So part of the reason is that wines has a lot of memorization. And that's very different than sort of the coaching that goes into the practical courses where you're working on technique. So there's all kinds of really creative things that our Learning Commons has put together for wines. There's a heads up game, right, that you play with your cell phone. There's Jenga that has food and wine pairing options on the little wooden chips. So super cool. They really work with different kinds of learners, people who are auditory learners, visual learners, and are very, very creative. If you are able to visit one of our campuses in the future, I really hope that you go to visit the library and Learning Commons areas, because they are not like the hush, be quiet parts of what you might think of as like a library or tutoring setting. They're actually super robust. We have little kitchen areas, so you'll see stainless steel tables. We are very, very proud of this second point on my slide here, which is that we go through 10,000 pounds of potatoes every year in our tutoring center. And we think we're the only college that happens with. So we absolutely have big baskets of potatoes and other vegetables available for you to practice knife skills. We have a lot of piping work for our pastry students that do their homework there. So it's not just book study. We really are very engaging with our students. These areas are also where you'll find our disability services, our testing accommodations. And I want to spend a minute just so you understand if this is a department that could help you or not. Many people just think about disability services as being someone who has a learning difference and maybe needs that testing accommodation for longer time or having a test read to them. We certainly do those kinds of more typical support services. But at CIA, if you have a food allergy, this is also the office that would help you with that. So if you have a shellfish allergy and you're a culinary arts student, you have to take that seafood class. It is absolutely required for you to understand that course content to graduate from the school. So we always want to make sure that you do that in an environment that is healthy for you and won't put you at any risk. So our disability services can make sure that you have that. If at any time during your tenure as a student, you have crutches, and you say, oh my gosh, I can't be in a kitchen with crutches, obviously. What are the accommodations we can make for you in terms of amending your schedule? And perhaps we need to make sure that you have a bench to sit on for a class, or you have, you're getting to a class early and you could put your foot up on a chair or what have you. So very often disability services may be for an acute period of time when you have a particular, like I said, an injury or something like that that would keep you out of a kitchen class. So we actually engage with them maybe more often than you might think. So just to let you know that they're there for you as well. Peer mentors are another part of the career and academic advising team that actually are wonderful helps for us in extending our hours beyond those sort of more traditional business hours. Our peer mentors are junior or senior level students. There's a very high GPA requirement for them. They go through a very specialized training. And we know that if it's after 6 p.m., our peer mentor could sit with you, maybe have dinner with you at the Egg, or have lunch with you at the Illy, a coffee with you at the Illy Cafe, or just meet you outside for a walk along the Riverwalk. Those conversations are very, very different than you might have with your career and academic advisor, quite frankly, or a tutor. And so I want you to understand how that might be different. I can talk at length about some of the different internship and externship sites that we have, but isn't it a different conversation you might have with a peer mentor who said, yeah, I worked at that place for 15 weeks on my internship, and let me tell you what that was really like day to day. They'll have a very different, maybe more enriched conversation with you than I might. Tutors are there supporting you in terms of course content, making sure that next test a higher score for you, or that your next paper is maybe more organized. A peer mentor is far more accustomed to conversations about how you're getting along with your teammates in the kitchen, your group dynamics, how you might be facing issues with a roommate, how you might be facing issues with just the psych out and stress out that you're doing in preparation for your practical. That's a big part of it. It's like if you're prepared and you know it and you start to feel more confident, that's going to help you approach something that you might be nervous about, like your practical or a final in a course or an interview coming up for an internship or potential job after. So they are a wonderful way for us to help you with those kinds of conversations. They're very wonderful about doing resident hall workshops that sometimes start at 9 p.m. or 9:30 p.m. Because of the way our CIA classes go into the evening hours. It's hard to find a time of day where everyone is available, but the peer mentors can do a workshop at 9 p.m. and get a room full of people there and talk about approaching the next career fair. How do you need to dress? What are you going to bring with you, and how are you going to approach a table? So we love working with our peer mentors and stay very connected to them. So I've mentioned this word a number of times so far in the slides that we've seen so far, and let's dig into it a little bit more. Internships are something that typically has a lot of questions involved, and I'm going to open this up very shortly to questions very specific to internship and externship. So externship is it's really the same thing, but it's really the externship is for culinary and baking pastry experiences. Internship is something we typically talk about with hospitality. In all cases, this is a semester where you are not in classes at the campus, but you are working full-time in the industry and really getting a very deep dive experience with fully vetted employers. And what I mean by that is any employer that wants to offer a job for internship or externship credit has to be fully vetted by our faculty members. They would send us a rotation of what you're going to be doing. We want to know who you're going to be working for, how they're going to be evaluating you, because that's sort of an extension of our faculty. That's how we see it in a very real way, who you're working for. And we want to really make sure that those 3 credit hours that you're earning on your transcript are backed with some really wonderful technique learning and exposure to different things. What you'll find in our list of approved internship and externship sites is that it's a true reflection of where our students are going once they graduate. So we have seen, of course, we have amazing fine dining partners that have been with us a very, very long time. You know, when you look at the top 50 restaurants in the world on the San Pellegrino list, about half of them work with us. We have students in all the 3 Michelin star restaurants in the United States, of course, but what we also see are students that are really more interested in leaning into guest services, maybe leaning into beverages and mixology. We have students seeking out agricultural internships and externships. We have students going into media outlets and test kitchens and maybe getting exposure to research and development opportunities. So what we're cultivating and curating in our list of approved internship and externship sites is really a very robust chance for you to see all the different career opportunities. You know, a lot of students now going into schools, going into non-for-profits. And so that's been really, really exciting for us to see. The internship and externship experience is not going to be something that you are not prepared for, right? The biggest word on this screen right now is prepared. So 2 semesters before you're due to go out and work at this experience, your career and academic advisor is working quite closely with you in preparation for this. Of course, it starts off with those very standard skill building things like, let's talk about your resume. A lot of students come in with a resume, we're going to update it. It's going to be just like our knife cuts. We're going to teach you the CIA way of doing it. We're going to teach you what we think is a gold standard. And how about your cover letter? That's actually terrifically important for a first job when you don't have a lot of experience. So how to share your goals, how to share what your dreams are, how to share that decision that you made to come to CIA, which tends to be kind of a romantic thing to talk about, and what were you most excited about when you chose to come to CIA? How is that going to be brought to fruition when you are working in the industry for maybe the first time, or in a more meaningful way? And so those are really foundational for us to have you understand that. One of the things we just, in a very nuts and boltsy way, 2 semesters before you're going out, is how to use the resources available to you as a CIA student. So day 1 as a CIA student, you get login and password access to a program that's called Culinary Connect. That is actually what people call our job board. It's where we post jobs for internships, externships, for graduates. What we have discovered about our graduates is they stay very connected to the school through CIA Cares for many years. So we may post 200 jobs a week, and some of those jobs are going to be 6-figure jobs that require 10 years experience. And so those are going to obviously be for our alumni to take a look at, but that's also the same place where we're going to post the externship search. So really to get people into it, how to understand the filter. Are you a student who wants to look for opportunities near your home location, or as a second, you could look at a place that offers housing and pay? And maybe those are the 2 options for you. If you're a student who really wants to be in San Francisco or Chicago or New York, one of those big city centers that don't offer housing with them, what are the things that you may need to prepare for your life and yourself for a short-term lease, and to make sure you can be successful when you're in those big cities. So for those people, we may also talk to them about a stage, which is a little different than an interview. An interview is more of a conversation. A stage is coming down with your uniform and your knives or your tools and get into our kitchen and do a shift with us, and let's see if it's a good match for you. So we do a lot of preparation, and typically that starts in an online course that's in Moodle, very integrated into the support from your career and academic advisor, and we're going to make sure that you're very prepared with having your job ready when it's time to go. Okay. Connected to looking for jobs, whether that's your internship or that's when you get to graduate. One of the pillars of the CIA is that we are a place of preferred talent to our industry. And I just want to thank Michelle for saying that right at the very beginning. CIA is so connected to our industry through in so many ways. And our board of directors, and you look at who they are and how they are CEOs of food companies and executive chefs of large groups. And every time we roll out a new program, how we really interface with those companies that we know will ultimately be hiring our students later, to find out what are those skills that you are looking for in a graduate. We want to make sure that's part of our curriculum. That's how CIA works their curriculum. It's not just what we what we think might be best theoretically. We are very engaged with industry and saying, what are you looking for that you don't have right now? What do you think that we need to beef up in terms of preparing students? So we are very, very connected to being a preferred source of talent to so many employers. And I'm going to tell you about a couple different ways that they connect to us on campus, and a very, very tangible way for you as a student. I already talked about the first thing on the left. That is Culinary Connect, which is our job board. I think the number actually, since I am looking at this, is probably a little over 2,500 externship positions right now. It's about 3,000, but we talked a little bit about that. Let's focus on what's in the middle, the career fairs. So in Hyde Park, it's called a career fair. In Greystone in Texas, they're called career networking days. Same thing, which is 3 times a year in each semester, we offer the chance for companies to come to campus and meet you. In all the cases, we run out of space. So this is actually something that sells out all the time. And so we allow companies in Hyde Park, it's over 125 easily, sometimes over 150. In Greystone, they've changed venues so they can take larger numbers of companies every time, maybe up to like 40 or 50. Might be a little smaller in San Antonio, but they're, you know, in terms of the ratio to student to employer, it stays really steady across our locations. Typically, employers will come for at least one day and hopefully 2 days. Many of them stay for a second day for interviews. We can see, not unusual, 1,600 interviews in 2 days. So when I talk about a student who may have an option when they get to graduation of job offers that they're choosing, or an option for an externship, an internship, please know that those are students that are working these resources for themselves. You can have 6 or 7 interviews in one day at one of these events. So it's always something that you will be aware of. There's a lot of excitement and energy about career fairs. Even our faculty are very aware of it, and they come down, and a lot of their recruiters, of course, are graduates, and it's a really wonderful sort of homecoming connection. So I will always tell every student, always, you go to every single career fair that you can go to. It's a wonderful place to network. I very often will suggest that if you are especially not sure of what you want to do, you should be going and asking questions. There's a lot of giveaways, free pens, free like squeezy stress balls. That's cool, but you know what? You should be taking that literature that tells you what is the outline for a manager training program. What does their leadership development look like? Do they have rotations available for you to understand what that externship experience might be like? Collect business cards, send thank you letters, right? So these are ways for you to establish relationships that will pay off over time. You don't want to go to a company like Hillstone 3 months before your graduation and ask for that job, because the recruiter is going to say, I'm here 3 times a year. Why have I not met you before? Right? They know that to be successful in their business, it's about relationship building, and they're going to look for you to show them, illustrate to them that you have that skill. You don't put on a letter, I'm good at relationship building, and not having built that relationship. So they want to see that in action. That's what you want to do. Maybe you even have a paper coming up in gastronomy or one of your other classes, and you get to like interview a chef right there on the floor about something on their menu that's, you know, sustainability of their seafood in their menu, and you want to ask about that, or you want to ask about their seasonality of their produce and how they go about, you know, flipping their menu and how often they change it. Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it seasonal? And you can use that in your course content. It's just a fabulous chance for you to connect with industry and practice conversation skills, which is really important. On the right-hand side, on-campus recruitment happens all the time, not just during those big career networking days, but in Hyde Park, sometimes at the Egg. You're going to go in for lunch. You will, like 2 or 3 times a week, see something set up there in the center aisle. And this is just a company that's coming in with some of their company information, their branding information. They want to talk to you about what the possibilities are for employment with them down the line. Take the moment. It's very casual. Have the conversation. Learn as much as you can. We sometimes do workshops in the Career and Academic Advising office. So if it's something that an employer says, hey, I want to do a full-on presentation, I want to do interviews in your space, can we do that? Of course, we roll out the red carpet and we let them meet as many of you as we can. So that's a wonderful thing. Some workshops are even presented by employers at that 9 o'clock at night hour because they want to get really as many people as they can. We see wonderful opportunities whenever a company comes to campus. So Google came to a conference that CIA was having in Hyde Park. That's called Menus of Change. Well, that's wonderful. They're going to meet industry professionals at the Menus of Change conference, but their head chef said, hey, can I have an hour or 2 with your students to just talk to them about what we do and sort of the thought behind how we do that and why we do that? Let's talk about food waste. Let's talk about how we help people eat differently and how we've reduced how much meat our employees eat just by how we designed our kitchens. Isn't that fascinating? It's fabulous. So if he wants to come in and get some time with our students, we always offer that up, give them a space, a theater, whatever, and offer them a chance to connect to you. When we have those conferences, when the president's office is hosting dinners or what have you, a lot of these industry leaders will come into the Center for Career and Academic Advising and want to meet with my team of advisors who they know are influential and informative for you as a student. And most of all, they want to connect directly to the students and ask, how do I do that? Can I just hang out at the Egg or in the main dining room with some of your students and let them know that I'm here and what we're doing? We love that. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to have this really specialized connection. The other thing that sometimes happens in a way like that is when we have graduates come to the CIA. So we had Kwame Onwuachi come to the CIA recently and talk about African cuisine that he has developed in his restaurant Kith and Kin, and how we can develop content in Cuisines of Africa courses, and some more integrating some of that into our global cuisines courses. And we gave him the theater with 600 seats in it, and he spoke to our students about the years that he lived in Western Africa and what he discovered about food there. And so we love doing that. And when our graduates come back, it's always a wonderful way for you to connect to them directly. And very often that leads to mentorship. Very often it leads to job outcomes. So we always love to connect you to industry when we can. Last formal slide here is about transfer credit opportunities, because I did mention that in the beginning when I was talking about Angie Budnick. And so Angie is someone who, like I said, is on the receiving end of these things, but I did want to let you know what those things were in case you were wondering about, can I get credit for something I've already done? So AP tests, you know, those scores have not come out yet, but when your test scores come out or when you're taking a test, you can say what schools you want those to go to. So please make sure CIA is on that list. Official transcripts showing college courses that you've earned a C or better. That is the line of demarcation. So when we get that college transcript officially, what Angie is doing is she's pairing it to see what is a similar course at CIA. If that meets a similar course to us, you could get transfer credit. So there's a discernment process that goes into that. The IB transcript, same thing. Summer classes, if you're taking summer classes upcoming, whether that's online, what have you, we want to know that that's in progress. We could put a pending transfer credit in the system for you, so that in academic and career advising, we are making course selections for you that make best sense or better sense for your fall start, or whenever you happen to be starting. Dual credits are something that people will take often in high school that have a connection to a local college. And so those work actually very similarly to the college courses, where we want you to see you get a C or better in that. Very, very common are students that come to me and say, hey, I have a ServSafe certificate. So that's wonderful. We want to make sure it's a manager level certificate. That's the one we accept, not the food handler. So we want that manager level ServSafe certificate. When you send that in to Angie, all that means is, and it's great, all that means is you do not have to take the ServSafe exam. It does not always equate to having to take the food safety course. That depends on what's called an articulation agreement between your high school or your technical program that you're in with CIA. So if we have that agreement already and we understand and trust that that technical program has met a similar course to food safety, then you get the transfer credit for the 1.5 credit food safety course and the exam. But please know that those are two different things. They don't always go together, but commonly do. So very often these are items that you would want to put on your list for before you start CIA. It's very rushed if you try to do that in your first week at school, but we leave a couple days available at the beginning of every semester to kind of tighten this up and make sure we get the paperwork that we need. I think probably the biggest thing is when people send an unofficial transcript and we're still waiting for the official transcript.
We got several questions, which I'm very excited about. One of the things I just want to touch on is because we had some questions for maybe people that are joining us that aren't as familiar to CIA. We do have 3 campuses in the United States. Our main campus is the Hyde Park, New York campus, seen in this picture right here. The other campuses that we mentioned, we have a campus in California. It's in the town of St. Helena, California, and it's known as the CIA at Greystone. So when we're talking about Greystone, we're referring to the California campus. And then our other campus, our third campus, is in San Antonio, Texas. And then our fourth campus is in Singapore. And that program is open to Singaporean nationals for them to do their degree program there, as well as a chance for our students to do some study abroad at that campus in Singapore. So we just wanted to clear that up. But otherwise, we had some really great questions. One of the first questions we received, Maura, was a student was wondering if they will receive textbooks or ebooks. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so textbook choices, and this is similar to any college, really. Those textbook choices are at the discretion of the faculty. So that means the teacher, in coordination with the dean of that different school, makes those selections for textbooks. It's a really cool online ordering system, actually, for our textbooks. So you can go in and say what semester you're in and write all the courses you have, and it gives you options to, do you want to buy that book brand new? Do you want it, hardcover that you own it? Do you want it, if there's an availability for online, do you want the online version of it? Is it available used? Is it available to rent? So there's really very, very interesting choices for you, especially if you're thinking about economy, and every college student is, of course, with some of those. So if one title is available in lots of different modalities, you'll get the option for that. There are certain classes that have an online component. So foreign language is one of those sections where we see that a textbook will come with an online login and password. That's because there's a really interesting digital speaking and listening component to foreign language that makes it really pair well with that. So I don't know if I would call that an ebook, but it sort of is. I think about, our textbooks, which we hold so near and dear, are our Pro Chef and our Baking Pastry, the Art and Craft. Those are so foundational to our kitchen classes. And, the difference between the online version of the Pro Chef and the written in the textbook is that there's really cool embedded videos. Do you need that? Not necessarily, but it is fun to have. So, you can really make that decision. And if your faculty member has made all of those options available, then that means that it's fine with them. So I think that's answering your question, but it's really very, very course specific. Different sections of literature and composition, as an example, will have very different text depending on who's teaching it and what the course objectives are for that particular section. So
great. Another question, Maura, was a student asked whether the same services are available at all three of our campuses. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm guessing in terms of support services, in terms
Yes.
of tutoring, in terms of disability services, in terms of having a career and academic advisor, having an individual financial planner. Yes, 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 yes. All of that. Housing, same thing. If you're in a residence life situation in Greystone or Hyde Park, the ratio for the RAs and RDs and things like that is the same. So absolutely, they're in different locations on the campus. So, but we have all of those support. Like I said, every single course that we teach, we make sure that we have the support behind it to support our students in success.
Great. Some of the questions are circling around previous experience, and this is very common because we have students at CIA that come from all walks of life. I would say roughly about, between 50 to 60% of our students are coming to college for the first time as first-year freshmen. And then I would say the other, anywhere between 40 to 50% of our students may have experience in the industry or have gone to a previous college or sometimes previous colleges. So we do have a really nice melting pot of just all people that have the common passion for food. That's the commonality that is shared with everybody. So with that brings people of all different experience levels and backgrounds. So one of the questions is circling around the, well, there's kind of two bookends to this. Is one, is it hard to get an internship or externship, again, we're using that word kind of interchangeably, is it hard to get one if you don't have a lot of experience? Can you talk about that first?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of our students are coming in and have not worked professionally in a kitchen, and that's fine. We have sort of done the work for you already in terms of working and communicating to those employers about what to expect from an intern or extern. This is a wonderful chance for you to connect to amazing places in the industry that are going to teach you very quickly. What I always say about our faculty on our campuses, in our kitchens, is they have a very good eye for talent, meaning who can do what independently, who's kind of veering off and needs some coaching and redirection. And the same thing with the chefs that we work with in the industry on our internships and externships. You know, different students are going to come into their kitchens at different levels, and they like to have a very strong idea of what CIA has done to prepare that student, and that at least 2 semesters before externship, so they understand that there are certain things that a CIA student can do independently. I'm going to use something very easy, like break down a chicken, something like that, right? They know that you should have that fundamental skill. They have the relationship with us to know that you have a certain level of practical experience, that you're coming in with your manager level serve safe certificate as an example too, and that that's something that you can do easily on your own, but that everything else are really going to have to navigate and do that first kind of assessment to see where you are functioning, how you are functioning. There are employers that say, I want to have someone who doesn't have a lot of experience because they haven't learned any bad bad habits to break. So that's something we hear about all the time. I actually have also worked on the opposite end of people that have had quite a lot of industry experience, and they come in and they can't wait to do the internship because what CIA has allowed them is access to some, like I mentioned, some of the greatest employers in the United States and maybe in the world that they would never have gotten the call back before from, Chef Mueller at Le Bernardin, and now they are having the chance to work there. And so for them, it's really exciting to really be leaning into that CIA family and the brand that's coming behind them to get access to opportunities they wouldn't have had otherwise. So, I don't think any 2 externships are ever exactly the same, because it really depends on how you're coming into it and what you put into it, of course. And I always say, and I mentioned this very quickly about the cover letter, for externship, this is maybe the first and maybe only job that you'll have where experience isn't the thing that's going to make the difference. What they're looking for is potential. What they're looking for in you is excitement and enthusiasm and drive, and that is something they can't teach you. So if you are a little slow in your knife cuts or something like that, or a little bit green about what they're doing, they know that there's a lot they can teach you, but what they're looking for in you as a candidate are the things that they can't teach you. And that, like, excitement and that goal-driven persona, that's the thing that they're actually looking for when they're meeting you for the first time. So you can bring that. And if you sit there and say, I don't know what I know yet, or I don't know how to communicate that to an employer, sit down with us and we'll spend some time and we'll draft together a really wonderful introduction for you with your cover letter and your words, and really share that excitement that you have for what you're doing, and we'll figure it out together.
More, we have so many questions that we need to get to.
Okay.
I just want to, and they're such great questions. One of them, to get back to what you were talking about with the externship and the experience, one of the things I just want to bring up is that students do have the option. We have something called the turbo option, which students can apply for when filling out their admissions application. If students do have a significant amount of experience already working in a professional kitchen, at least 2.5 years of full-time experience, you can be considered for the turbo option, which would waive your the requirement for your for your externship, as well as give you transfer credit for that. It would allow you to graduate a little bit sooner. So that is indeed an option, but you'd want to work with one of your with your admissions advisor on that, because we would be able to guide you best just as Maura said, if you are someone, for example, who has a ton of experience in more of a fast casual environment, but your ultimate goal is to go into fine dining, you may not want to forego the opportunity to have 3.5 months of experience in a fine dining establishment, before graduating. So it is an option, but we'll work with you individually to figure out if it's the right option for you.
Yeah, and like I said, I've had students who come in, it does not cost you more to do externship, it costs time, right? So when you look at the two big things you're investing in your education, it's time and money, right? And so you could graduate a semester earlier without the externship, but there is no tuition for the externship semester, and sometimes that's something that people go, oh, I had no idea. So I just wanted to say that. And most of, I think something like 80% of our students, when they return to campus after externship, tell us they have a job offer waiting in their back pocket. That's part of the reason our grad placement rate is so high. And students who don't have an externship sometimes feel like they're not as prepared facing graduation. So it's just something that, just because you can really take the moment of discernment to decide if that's the best thing for you or not, because it is a pretty cool experience to have. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate something that you said. The externship does not cost you money to go on. You are receiving CIA credit for the externship, but you are not paying tuition during that time. You are not paying room and board to CIA during that time. You'll incur any expenses that go along with whatever the housing situation is that you've selected, but you are not paying, which is really rare. As someone who has an undergraduate and a graduate degree from another institution in an unrelated field and did 6 internships and paid for credit for all 6 of those internships, I can tell you that that is really extraordinary that you are not paying tuition during that time. Someone asked Maura, are these internships paid?
Most of them are. I'm gonna lean on some statistics that are like within the last 5 years or so, where I would say over 95% of our externships and internships have been paid. The very small portion of them that are not paid, and I don't want to call anybody out, but it's good for you to know if this is in your category, tend to be those tiny, very high-end bake shops that are just doing wedding cakes, and that's it. They only might do 3 wedding cakes a week. That tends to be something that people get really excited for and disappointed that in that small genre, because they're really small shops, that tends to be where we see the non-paid. How COVID is changing things in our industry is something that I'm watching constantly. I'm sure you are too. I watched Danny Meyer on 60 Minutes last night. He was phenomenally articulate as always. So I'm not sure what we're walking into. What I can tell you is that we are an industry that is extraordinarily resilient and creative. And I spoke last week to a graduate of ours who went to Puerto Rico right after she graduated a few years ago, got her dream job at the Ritz-Carlton, landed in Puerto Rico, got a lease on an apartment. 2 weeks later, Maria hit, and her life changed, right? And there was no jobs, and there was no resources, no food anywhere to be had. She is an amazing example of the resiliency of how we train our people, because all of a sudden she was standing there with 2 good hands and an amazing skill set, having been highly trained from CIA, and she started making meals for people really quickly. She started working with Jose Andres very, very quickly. Now she has started her own meal delivery service in Puerto Rico. Super successful person. So I'm not sure how that paid non-paid situation looks like in the future. I don't think any of us really kind of know what that's going to look like, but in the last couple of years, it's really, most of them are paid. Some of the international experiences are not paid in Europe because they sort of have a different traditional setup. I'm going to try to shorten my answers.
Maura, because some of these questions, I just want to remind all the students that when searching for their internship, they will be able to look and see everything that's available, and they will know in advance if the sites are paid and if they include housing or any kind of a lodging stipend. They will be able to know all of that information in advance. They're never automatically just placed somewhere. We have some students that have questions about how the lodging works, and I just want to assure everybody that you'll work with your advisor and they'll give you options. If it is, if you're dead set on that you want to go to a particular site that doesn't offer housing, then, they'll let you know what students before them have done, whether in terms of finding short-term leases, or sometimes students also go to a specific location because they may have family nearby. And chances are there are, whatever the site is, there have been CIA externs that have, gone there before, and we can, we'll have some recommendations. So you're never going into anything blindly, you're never going to be, homeless. We will work that all out, with you ahead of time, and it's up to you to customize your experience. Do you agree with that, Maura?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. A very big question we're getting is students are wondering if they can do their externship internationally.
Yeah, that's a really exciting option. And we had, I think we had 4 or 5 students at Osteria Francescana in the last year, which was the #1 restaurant in the world for 3 years very recently. I think it's #2 or 3 now. It's exciting, it's interesting, and it has some extra planning requirements for you in terms of, is that a place where you need a visa? Is it a student visa? Is it a working visa? A lot of that has to do with the start and end dates and things like that. As you mentioned earlier, transportation to and from, how you're getting there, how you're going to do your housing. But we've had wonderful experiences in Lima, Peru, and New Zealand, and Australia, and South Korea, and China, and all over Europe. And yeah, our students absolutely love to explore the world, and we support them in that.
More students are asking when they can get their hands on the list of all of the sites. When is that list available to students?
That's day one as a student. So if you are an accepted student, you don't have it yet. If you are enrolled and give your deposit, you don't have it yet. When you are on campus for your first day, and that everything clicks over, that your main menu now looks different because you're a full-fledged student and you have access to all those different parts of the main menu. Part of that package is that you have your login and password to the Culinary Connect. It's a quick link right from the front page. Same login and password as all your other CIA stuff, and you have access to that for life. For life. So when you graduate, you're still connected to that forever. And that's wonderful. So you don't get it in advance.
Yeah,
it's part of the investment, really. It's really part of the tuition investment that we think, to have access to that.
Agreed. Some students are asking an important question about when our next semester starts. We are starting our next semester on May 18th. So if you are a CI accepted student to begin in this summer term, which begins for new students on May 18th, get in touch with your enrollment manager. You could also, if you're not sure who they are, email them at enrollment@culinary.edu to go over the specifics for starting CIA in the next semester. So we can go over all the details with you as things progress and situations change. We'll have new and updated information for you. So we'll be in touch with you about all those details, and you can always reach us. One of the questions that students are asking more is that, particularly around the option to do their internship, elsewhere, is that we do also have study abroad options as part of our bachelor's degree offerings. So I just wanted to remind everyone that students have the opportunity to take either a cuisines and cultures trip, a global cuisines and cultures trip, where they could travel for around 2 weeks or so to Italy, Spain, China, France, Peru. Am I forgetting anything?
Tanzania.
Oh, Tanzania. Oh my goodness. And yeah. So in that, where they would go with a class as part of a course, or you could also have the option sometimes, depending, to go on more than one trip. So, and that's a chance to go with a group and a faculty member to learn the culture and cuisine of another part of the world. So we have that option as well. And then in addition, students have the option to obtain a concentration as part of their bachelor's degree program, where they can either go to our California campus and study farm to table cuisine, advanced baking and pastry principles, or our Texas campus, Latin cuisine, our Singapore campus, Asian cuisine. We have a location in Puglia, Italy, where students can go and live in a castle and study Italian cuisine. So we have a lot of different options for students to get travel experience, even if it's not part of the externship. So your advisor will also work with you on how to work towards setting yourself up to be available for one of those concentrations, letting you know what prerequisites you need, what your options are, and things like that. Because along with that, Maura, is students are asking, when do they do the internship or externship? What part of their program do they do that?
It's different for different people depending on your major, degree, and elective concentration choices. But what I can tell you is it's always 2 semesters after your foundational course. So there's a course called Culinary Fundamentals. There's a course called Baking and Pastry Technology. And so those are the foundational courses, depending on what your lab setup is. It's always going to be 2 semesters after that. So that is, depending on when that course lands, that's how we track it out. And that's so that you have all the prerequisites involved. You know, externship is a course like many other upper level courses at CIA, that there are prerequisites. We want to make sure you have your ServSafe. We want you to have your practical in place. We want you to have a certain number of what we call lab credit hours, so that you have been successful in so many lab credit hours that you're going to be able to go. So your career and academic advisor is taking a look at those things, those prerequisites, all the time to make sure you're on track for it. If you're going off track for it, you know it, because you've had that conversation with your advisor that's like, hey, I just got this grade in and this may change what's going on for you. Or, hey, let's talk about retaking something because that will change your eligibility for externship. But it really, I can't give a flat answer for that, because it is different for each person depending on what their program is.
Sure. A lot of the questions are also circling around transfer credits. So in terms of transfer credit, I just want to let everybody know that you'll be considered for transfer credit when you get accepted to the college. You'll be considered for transfer credit. As Maura mentioned, Angie will go over the transfer credit with you. It depends what transfer credit you're bringing in, how much you're bringing in, and how it applies to your program of study. So there are some cases where you may be able to graduate a semester, or more early with the transfer credit you have brought in. So it really depends on what credit you're bringing in, and how many credits, to determine if it will shorten your length of study. If it shortens your length of study, then it will save you semesters worth of tuition. We also have a program that is a degree completion program that students can apply for. If you have 30 or more credits, you can be considered for this program. So work with your admissions counselor to determine whether or not you could be eligible for that program. And it's again, a shortened program. It's perfect for students that already have, say, an associate degree or even a bachelor's degree in unrelated fields, or a liberal arts or a business management or something like that. But I do want to because we had some questions about this, I do want to let everyone know that CI does not accept transfer credit for any hands-on culinary, baking, or table service classes. We require that all lab classes be done at CIA and CIA kitchens and bake shops with CIA faculty. We are pretty stringent on that. So we require that if to have a CIA degree, you have to have gone through, the CIA way of doing things. So we do not accept transfer credit or any kind of testing out for anything hands-on. So I do want to let everybody know that. We're also getting a lot of questions about working on campus, and that is something that doesn't go through the Office of Career and Academic Advising, but there are two different ways that you could work on campus. Some of you will be eligible for work study. That would be something that would be on your financial board package, if you're eligible for that, and you'll be notified about that, and then you'll be eligible to work on campus. However, we have plenty of jobs available on campus, so not all students who work on campus are receiving work study. It's just a matter of where the funding comes from, but as long as you're interested in working on campus, you'll be able to find a job on campus. We have plenty of opportunities. We have students that work as tour guides. We have students that, as Maura mentioned, some are tutors. We have students that work in a variety of different computer labs, students that work in dining halls, students that work, in our admissions office, all different offices. So working at the Egg, working at our student recreation center, lifeguards. There are plenty of jobs available on campus, and there's also a lot of opportunity to work in the local area. Many of our students and work on special events or work in catering, catering gigs and things like that. So there's a lot of opportunity to work part-time, either on or off campus with your schedule. Maura, a very popular question is students want to know what if it's hard to get an externship at the Food Network, and if they were, what is it like? What is working at there's a lot of interest around the Food Network.
Okay. Food Network has been working with us for a long time. We're so blessed to have that connection. What I want to share with you for the internship posting in big capital letters, please don't take offense to this. You'll understand where they're coming from. It says, we're not looking for front of the camera talent through this particular job posting. Okay, so that doesn't mean you're not going to be discovered by the Food Network, but the particular job that our students on externship do at the Food Network is mostly like mise en place. So when you look at the shows and you see all the mise en place, all the pre-cut things and little bowls and stuff like that, very often those are CI students that are doing that. If they have a catered event, with some VIPs and things like that, that's catered by them. A lot of their food stylists are actually consultants that come in like in a gig kind of a capacity. Not all of them. Actually, I think there's only one or two that are like on staff. So you kind of learn a little bit about that food styling type of work. Depending on the different shows, sometimes they don't want that perfect dice that we go crazy for, right? We want your onions to always be diced exactly the same. If it looks the same, it cooks the same, right? But sometimes they feel like in some of those shows, you want to make it approachable for the at-home cook. So they'll actually tell our students to be a little sloppier with the knife cuts so that it's approachable for the viewers. So it's interesting for you to actually get that perspective. So that job, the externship job, is a very behind the camera setting up type of job. Please know that when the Food Network people are looking for their next star, they sometimes come to our campus, or they definitely post like flyers and stuff with us to let students know that they're having open call. But we do work with externship in a different way. If you want to be discovered, that's not the way necessarily to do it. Doesn't mean you won't be discovered though.
Awesome. We have gone over our time here, Maura, but there are so many great questions.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.